Hey everybody, welcome back to another JBoz Gaming video. This is your host, Gunner JBoz, and so I am going to today record the first video in my new playlist, the good, the bad, the ugly, and the truth. And this video specifically is going to be about pay model. And the reason this is important to talk about is because it sets up pretty much every other conversation or every other video that I'm going to do as it relates to the performance or lack thereof for Wargamming as a company. And so let's just dive in. The first thing that I want to say is there are various pay models that different gaming companies use in order to be compensated for the video game that they make, they support, and continue to expand and grow. And so it's very, very important that companies get this right so that they have the financial means in order to support the game that they've developed. Obviously, it is very difficult. It is very time-consuming to create a video game, and if you don't get the right pay structure put in place as you start to distribute your game, then you won't have incentive, and whether there's lack of incentive or not, you won't have the money to continue to support your own game. Let's kind of dive in on the different play models that are out there, and I won't go through all of them, but we're going to talk about just a few. The first one that I'll mention is called pay to play. In this pay model, a game is made and then it is sold right to the community, to the player base. And today this happens in more than likely digital form, meaning that a player goes into the Sony PlayStation Store or the Xbox Microsoft Store and they purchase the game digitally for a certain amount of money. And this ranges depending on the game and depending on how much they think they can get for the game. But let's say the game is between $50 and $100 and they sell it for, let's say $80 with some add-ons or whatever. But the bottom line is, once you buy that game digitally, then it is yours to play. There is no more need to spend money on the game. And so you can continue to play that game as little or as often as you want. And so that's that pay to play model. An example of this is, something like Farming Simulator. It's a popular game that a lot of people like to play. They pay a certain amount of money to get the game, and then they can play that version of the game for as long and as much as they would like. Now, in that case, they come out with new versions of the game that you then have to purchase separately. And so that's the pay-to-play model. So the second kind of model that I want to kind of make sure that we all have some understanding about is the pay-to-win model, where it's usually a game where you pay for premium items. So the game itself, or you pay for time that gives you bonuses to the game. And so what happens in the pay-to-win model is that you don't pay for the game itself, but you pay for upgrades to the game or content in the game that makes you better, that gets you to a goal faster, or whatever it may be. It makes you better at the game. And so this is the pay to win model, where you would get a game, you download the game, and then within the game you buy the +5 sword, or you buy the super duper shotgun that the other players don't have, and that you can shoot, you can one-shot people. And so this is a pay-to-win type of model because you're paying money for content in the game that makes you successful at the game. And then the two other models that I just want to mention are a straight advertising model, where players don't pay for the game, but there are ads that run in the game during the game, and so advertisers pay the company to run ads within their game, and that's how the developer gets compensated. Is that as you're playing the game, you might have to take an ad break, and there's ads that are presented to the players, hoping that obviously they'll buy something from the advertisers, but nonetheless the advertisers pay the developer money for ad space and ad time in their game. So that's what I would call the sponsors or advertising part of a pay model. And then there is subscription-based pay models, where a player pays a certain amount monthly, and they get access and can play the game. And maybe even in subscription-based models, there's additional tiers that you can purchase that allow you to get access to additional content or bonus content or helpful additional content that's more than the base tier. So kind of recapping, there's 4 different models I've mentioned here. There's subscription-based, there's sponsors or advertising model, there's pay-to-play, and then there's pay-to-win. Now, you can have combinations of these pay models in place and in existence in any one game, but let's specifically hone in and let's talk about World of Tanks. What pay model is World of Tanks? Well, World of Tanks isn't a pay-to-play because it's free. It's a free game, and so in order to download and play, you don't have to pay any real money. You can just play the game for free, and so it can't be a pay-to-play model because it doesn't meet that criteria. But if we look at these other pay models, well, it's not so much a subscription model because you don't pay so much a month, though you can argue that buying premium time, if you buy premium time and you buy that for each day, it's somewhat, if you're going to pay for premium, then that is somewhat of a subscription model to pay for premium. So that model kind of comes into existence in World of Tanks. So, but it's not really, you're not required to pay anything. So really the subscription model isn't quite there. So let's keep that in mind. And then the sponsors or advertising model, obviously there are not ads that run in World of Tanks. They have teamed up with various groups in the past. Hot Wheels comes to mind, G.I. Joe comes to mind. They've gotten probably money from these groups in order to put that content into their game and basically advertise content. So it's very limited. It doesn't run on a regular basis, but they have done partnerships where you see other manufacturers or other sellers of goods advertising via World of Tanks. And so it's sort of there, but not really, because it's not always there. And then of course, pay to win does kind of exist in World of Tanks, in that you can buy premium tanks. Premium tanks allow you to kind of skip ahead, if you will, and get tanks that are already battlefield ready. They don't have to be upgraded. There's no play that has to be put into them in order to get their best performance as a tank out. And so buying premium tanks, buying premium time is somewhat of a pay-to-win model. However, it is not truly that case in World of Tanks, because no matter what you pay in World of Tanks, whether it's premium, whether it's premium time, premium ammunition, whether it's the premium tanks, at the end of the day, it really offers you very little advantage to actually win the game. As I'm sure you can attest, you've probably lost a few battles in your premium tanks shooting premium rounds to tanks that maybe are tech tree tanks that anyone could grind and achieve. And so that's why I'm saying that World of Tanks doesn't really fit the model of pay to win, because there's no amount of money that you can pay, and there's nothing that you can acquire that will assure you winning, even half the time. So it's not really a pay to win model, and thus is truly the real heart of the problem when it comes to World of Tanks. Don't get me wrong, I like a free game, and that's what World of Tanks is, if you don't pay real money to enhance it, if you will. But that's also the problem that Wargamming has encountered, is that because they don't really have a pay model, a true pay model, they as a company probably struggle, and I don't know their financials, but I'd venture to bet that they are not profitable on the console side, because they are struggling with this pay model of making enough money to support the game as well as future development. And so that is kind of the quintessential problem with World of Tanks. And the reason this is a problem, not just for Wargamming, but actually for the players, is if you produced something and gave it away for free, and someone came back and started complaining about what you made, would you care? So for example, let's say you built a replica of a tank out of Legos, and you gave it to your little brother or little sister, and they went off and they played with that little Lego tank, and they didn't give you any money. They didn't exchange any services or goods for it. You simply, kindness of your heart, gave them the tank, and they went off and played. And then, later on that evening, they come back and they start complaining about, well, the tank doesn't do this, it doesn't do that, the tank broke, right? Are you obligated, or do you care in any way to address their grievances with the tank? And the answer is, if we're honest, is no. You have no obligation, and you certainly don't have incentive to address their grievances with the product that you've made. And so that's why this is an issue for actually the players of World of Tanks, and that's why you should care, if you do like playing this game, about the pay model. And yes, we all like to be able to play this game without paying for it, but in life, really nothing is free. And so what we found, is true in other aspects of life, is though we thought we've got a pretty good game for free, what we found is we've got a game for free that we have no voice in. So Wargamming doesn't and will not care, and nor should they care. I'm not advocating that they should care for people's opinions about their game that do not pay for their game. The problem comes when you actually do spend real money on the game, and they still don't maybe listen to what you have to say. And so the pay model is very much something that is a real problem with World of Tanks. I think it's a real problem for the company, and I think it's a real problem for the player base. So, and again, the reason this topic is so important is because we've got to keep this in mind when I begin to rant and complain about other stuff, because if we don't pay for that other stuff, then why should Wargamming care? Why should they do something about it? And so what I would advocate to fix this situation is that Wargamming figure out, and it wouldn't be easy. I can see that it would be very difficult to change their pay model right now, but Wargamming needs to change their pay model. They need to create a pay model that is either one of these four that I suggested, come up with another one, or do a solution where it's a mix of these pay models. I do not advocate that Wargamming come up with a pay-to-win pay model. I think that would take away the competitive and exciting game that they have. If people just were able to pay to win the game, I don't know why people would continue to play the game for very long. I think people would easily bore and tire of it and walk away. So I don't advocate for pay to win, though I do advocate for maybe a pay model that includes subscription based, where potentially you pay nothing up front. That's the first tier of the subscription is $0, and you can play tiers 1 through 3 for free. You can come in, get the tanks, grind them, work it up, and you can play the game up to a certain point. And then, if you want to move on, then they can incorporate different tiers level. So, and the pricing could vary. It could depend. I don't know. It'd have to come. The price would have to be something that accumulates enough money for Wargamming to continue producing content. And I don't know what that would be. You would have to understand their cost. You'd have to understand what the kind of going rate is for a game like World of Tanks and so on. But I would advocate that they do charge something for their game beyond the free tier, so that there's only 2 tiers, and the second tier is $5 a month. I don't know, $15 a month, whatever it needs to be. But that's what the pay model would be. Now, arguably, they've given the player base all of this content for free, and then to kind of take a portion of it and hide it behind a paywall would seem unfair. But again, I remind you that at the end of the day, if you want to see actual improvement, real improvement, and real effort put towards the game, then you would need to pay for it at some level. And so that I would advocate probably for a subscription-based pay model. And maybe you can make that subscription-based pay model a little YouTube-ish, meaning the second tier is, it's not free, it's advertising. So if you want to play tanks 4, 5, and 6, maybe that comes with running ads. And you can play up to there, but the ads will play or whatever. And they can sell advertising to try to get some of the money back on existing content that they've already made. Or if players don't want the ads to run, then they can buy tier 3, which is playing World of Tanks all the way up to tier 6 ad free, and therefore that now they're paying $5 or whatever bucks a month to play up to tier 6 with no ads, and so on. So there's lots of different combinations in the subscription model, and that's why I kind of advocate for the subscription, because they can bring to bear some of these other options available to them. And they can continue to pay. You can continue to offer premium tanks as well for sale. You can continue to offer premium days for sale as well. So, and maybe some of these subscriptions come with a certain amount built in, so that there's value, right, when you're paying for that particular subscription. So I think we understand that there's different pay models out there that other games use, and this is a major problem for World of Tanks, and it has been since the beginning. And that's why we continue to struggle to have a voice as a community, because quite frankly, we don't even pay for the game, and therefore, why would someone listen or react to someone that is really not providing them anything other than grievance? So that's the pay model, and you'll hear me talk more about this in maybe some of the upcoming videos where I really start to hone what I would recommend. But in general, right now, I think that's where I want to leave it and let you guys kind of think on that. Of course, if you want to talk further, hit me up on Twitch when I go live. And I usually go live Friday and Saturday nights. So hit me up and, throw me ideas or complain like, oh, that would be terrible. I want your feedback. I want to hear what you have to say. I want to hear your thoughts. And I want to hear what you think about all this. So, and Gunner J-Boz is an opportunity to do that, where we're just chatting sometimes and not just playing World of Tanks, but we're also talking to other members of the community, trying to get their thoughts and, get a reaction that way. Until next time, folks, good luck on the battlefield and happy tanking. We'll see you in the next one.